Okay, so it looks like we're going to be starting our journey into the Heart Kingdom a bit sooner and a lot differently than I think any of us really expected. I mean, seriously, after the way the last chapter ended, who would have thought that the chapter that we get to focus on Gordon would have been the key into starting us off on our brand new journey? So we start the chapter and we see that the Black Bulls headquarters is literally just like parked in the middle of the capital. I mean, seriously, they're even in their Minotaur form, and it looks like it might be sitting on top of another building, and they're literally just parked there in the middle of the street, like literally in the middle of the city. And Yami's kind of freaking out. He's saying, "Hey, we kind of need to move before the nobles or royals kind of get even more pissed at us than they already are." But Henry obviously can't move it because he's out of mana, so he has to drain it from Magna and Luck and Charmy. So we get this kind of funny scene of the three of them chowing down on Charmy's like mana regenerating food so that they can feed him mana so that he can eventually move their headquarters. Now, personally, I think this is a huge opportunity that Yami and the Black Bulls are missing out on. I mean, just think about it. If a giant Gundam just showed up in the middle of your street, like in the middle of your city, which is like randomly one day it was just there, just sitting there, not moving at all, not dangerous at all, just random giant Gundam just sitting on one of your buildings, not doing anything. Would you not want to go check that out? Would you not want to go like take pictures in front of it or something like that? I mean, hell, if something like that happened in my city, I would pay whoever put it there to let me take a picture of it, to get inside of it, something like that. I mean, just think, and you even saw in the chapter that even though the townspeople were kind of looked a little bit worried when they were looking around at the Black Bulls headquarters, just sitting there, they were interested in it though. I think if Yami played his cards right, he could gather a lot of funds for their journey just by having people come up and like examine the base. Because I mean, how often in the Black Bulls in the world of Black Clover are they gonna see something like that? But anyway, we start the chapter. We see Yami freaking out about that, and then we end up finding out from his conversation with Noelle and Vanessa that they can't just enter the Heart Kingdom because of the fact that the border has a whole bunch of traps around it, which I don't know why they didn't think of this. They even mentioned him in the chapter, but I'm pretty sure Zora could find his way around the traps for them to sneak into the Heart Kingdom. Now, it's not a good idea for them to sneak in because as we find out from Yami, that if they get caught trying to sneak in illegally, it will cause a huge international incident which could basically bring the Heart Kingdom and the Clover Kingdom to war. Which is not something the Clover Kingdom really needs at this point. I mean, they're already pretty much still at war with the Diamond Kingdom. They still get skirmishes every now and then between the two of them, especially, and now that the Magic Knights are actually even more drained after what just happened and aren't really ready to fight against any other country, this is not the time to be making enemies. And this is when Noelle actually kind of chimes up and she mentions the fact that Mimosa, when they were kids, actually went over to the Heart Kingdom in the guise of being an exchange student. Now, she was pretty much there just to do that, but I'm pretty sure her family was kind of trying to use her and her brother going over there as a way to gather information on the Heart Kingdom. You know what, now that I think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense that the bottle would choose these two characters as the ones who had originally been to the Heart Kingdom out of everyone in the series. Because of the fact that both their magics actually derive from nature. I mean, sure, everyone's magic technically derives from nature. You know, water, fire, earth, air, all that stuff is basically based off of nature. But when it comes to their plant magic, it's even more based on the kind of nature that you would expect the Heart Kingdom to be using in their development of their magic and their technology and stuff. And you know what? If their plant type magic is actually something that's kind of a staple in their family, I wouldn't be surprised if one of their ancestors actually originate from the Heart Kingdom. Like maybe maybe their mom, her ancestors probably come from there, or possibly her dad if he married into the family, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up finding out that Mimosa and Kurtz actually have origins coming from that kingdom. We get to actually check in with Langris in this chapter, which is surprising because it's been like 40 chapters now since we last saw him. But we see him in this chapter and he's in the hospital still. And the reason why we're actually going to visit him is because of the fact that after Yami found out from Noelle that Mimosa actually went into the Heart Kingdom at one point, he sent Finral over to talk to her, but instead he immediately goes to talk to Langris. So anyway, we see the two of them in their conversation, and you immediately think that Langris is still going to be that same bratty kid character that we've seen him be throughout the entire series. But what we end up finding out as the conversation between the two of them goes on is that the reason why Langris is being very frustrated and very angry in the situation isn't because he still has hatred towards Finral. It's actually because of the fact that he's angry with himself about all the mistakes that he's made and the fact that Finral is basically paying the price for them. And you know what? This part of the chapter was actually kind of touching, and actually was really nice to see how these two have developed their relationship after these past events. And speaking of development, this chapter pretty much highlighted that during this arc we're going to see some major character development for Finral, because during this part of the chapter he declares to Langris that by the time him and the Black Wolves come back from their journey, he's going to be a man worthy of their father's respect, and he's going to take back his position as head of the, or at least next head of the household. And he also openly proposed to Finesse, which just goes again to show how close these two have actually kind of gotten. Because after he openly proposes to her, Langris takes him outside of the room, and you immediately think he's going to yell at his brother or kind of like belittle him or something like that. So, and he wanted to move away from her so that she wouldn't see it. But instead he kind of gives him advice. He's like, hey, if you plan on marrying Finesse and making her happy, you gotta drop this whole playboy act you're doing. Like, every time you see a girl, you instantly flirt with her like you're under some kind of curse. If you want to, end up marrying Finesse, you gotta stop doing that. And that's pretty much a gag for Finral for the rest of the chapter. Now, despite the comedy of him trying to get over his playboyness, I do hope, like, one of my biggest hopes for this arc when it comes to him is that Finral will get some kind of attack spell during this arc. Now, I know he's not really a fighter, he's more of a support mage, and I accept that, but I'm hoping, if we're planning on seeing him develop even more as a character, I'm hoping this leads to him getting some kind of offensive ability. It doesn't have to be anything really powerful, it doesn't even have to be all that useful, but getting something, some kind of offensive ability so that he doesn't have to be protected all the time or saved all the time and just work as support anymore, that he can actually fight on his own. Something like that. I'd actually really like to see his character develop in that way. So by the midway point of the chapter, we have Mimosa, Noelle, Asta, and Finral, and I think Nero actually was there with him on top of Asta's head, heading into the Heart Kingdom. And the reason why they're able to enter is because Mimosa was able to somehow get them 4 passes into the kingdom. Now, what we end up finding out by the end of the chapter is that the reason why she was given permission to enter with them is because of the fact that the Queen of the Heart Kingdom is planning on stealing Asta's demonic powers for herself. And that's pretty much where the chapter ends when we find out that revelation. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar to you guys. We have 4 main characters. I mean, technically 5 with Nero there, but she's in her bird form, so it doesn't count. We have 4 main characters, Asta, Noelle, Finral, and Mimosa, heading into an area that is highly guarded, and you are not usually allowed to enter unless you have specific permission from the queen of that area. Yeah, it sounds like the Witch's Forest arc, doesn't it? And that's kind of the vibe I got from the chapter, that we're kind of redoing the Witch's Forest arc, but going into like a more grander scale. Because, I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot more similarities than what I just mentioned. Besides the fact that we have 5 of the main characters heading into this secluded area. There's also the fact that the main bad guy, or seemingly the main villain of this new arc that we're going into, which is going to be the queen of this area, just like how the Witch Queen was the queen of the Witch's Forest, is really only letting them in and letting them be active inside her territory because of the fact that she wants the demonic power for herself. Just like how the Witch Queen only healed Asta's arms and let him fight inside of her forest because she hoped that it would unlock his black form and that she could actually take control of him and use it in some way to protect the Witch's Forest from any calamity that she saw coming. And on top of that, we even end up finding out that there's a lot of similarities between the Witch Queen and the Queen of the Heart Kingdom. For starters, they're both supposed to be extremely beautiful and look extremely young for their age. 2, they're both extremely powerful. I would say that the Witch Queen is probably as strong as Julius at his peak, if not stronger. And when it comes to the Queen of the Heart Kingdom, who Asta actually calls her the Magic Empress of the Heart Kingdom in this chapter, we end up finding out that her strength could potentially rival or even surpass the combined strength of every Magic Knight inside the Clover Kingdom. So we already know that she's incredibly powerful. And plus the fact that they're both very omniscient, they know exactly what's going on at all times inside of their territory. So there's a lot of, similarities between the 2 characters. This only leads me to question whether or not, by the end of this chapter, just like how the Witch Queen was kind of turned into being more of a good character by her experiences with Asta, and mostly because of her connection to Vanessa, I wonder if the Queen of the Heart Kingdom will have the same kind of experience. And it's really all going to depend on if we end up meeting a character inside the Heart Kingdom who has a close connection to her. Because as of right now, none of these characters, unless we find out that during her time there as a child, Mimosa somehow became close to the queen. None of these characters have any real connection to her right now. So the only way she's going to have the same kind of turn that the Witch Queen ended up having is if they end up running into a character who was close to her. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, there's this mist that they have to enter when they're heading into the Heart Kingdom before they actually finally get to enter inside of it. And that mist is basically there to keep anyone who doesn't have permission or a pass from entering inside the Heart Kingdom. And my biggest question after reading this chapter and seeing that part of it is, now that Finral's in there, how does that affect his spatial magic? Because all that Finral needs to do is actually be in a place once, and then he can teleport back and forth from it with his magic. But does that mist actually keep him from being able to do that? Because I would imagine that someone as powerful as a Witch Queen, or as he keeps saying the Witch Queen, as the Queen of the Heart Kingdom has been made out to be by Mimosa, that she would have taken countermeasures to keep someone with spatial magic from being able to just teleport in and out whenever they want to. Because, I mean, if you think about it, when Asta and them eventually get into trouble inside the Heart Kingdom, it would be very easy for Finral just to teleport over to Black Bolt's headquarters and then teleport everyone back over there to help out. But if the Queen actually puts some kind of countermeasure to keep spatial mages from being able to teleport in and out of the kingdom, then they are on their own. There's no way that the rest of the Black Bolts will be able to enter the Heart Kingdom without Finral's help. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the main topic that I saw people arguing about in the comment section on Manga Stream and some of the other sites I read Black Clover on. And the main thing is that when we get to see the Witch Queen at the end of the chapter, we see half her body's kind of like covered in silhouette. Like, we see the lower half of her body and the rest is covered in shadow. And behind her, while she's sitting on her throne, is this person who seemingly is controlling the water around her. Now, I saw a lot of debates online of people saying that this person that's behind her is either the water spirit or it's a demon. I'm more inclined to believe that it's actually the water spirit, just because if you look at that character's ears, they have the same kind of ears that people usually use when they're drawing fish type character in manga and anime. Usually when it comes to like a humanized version of a character who's supposed to be a Leviathan, which, now that I think about it, if that person actually is the Great Water Spirit, it makes me wonder, do they actually have a Leviathan form? Because if they do, that actually leads to a whole new realm of possibilities when it comes to these spirits. I mean, think about it. What if Salamander, if this person actually is a Great Spirit and actually can transform back and forth between Leviathan and human form, what if Salamander can do the same thing? What if at some point in the series, we get to see a humanized version of Salamander? I also saw a few people saying online that they think that if that actually does turn out to be the Great Water Spirit, that we could see Noelle getting a major power up by getting the spirit for herself, which will actually, if she does end up getting the spirit, could potentially make her the most powerful character in the entire squad of Black Bulls. Now, personally, I don't think Noelle is actually ready for that, so I don't expect us to see her get the spirit. Maybe at some point later on in the series, she could get the character, or she can get the spirit for herself. If something ends up happening to the Queen of the Heart Kingdom, like maybe she dies, or the spirit just decides to pass on to Noelle instead. Maybe at some point later on that could happen. But as of right now, I doubt by the end of this arc that we'll see Noelle taking on the water spirit for herself and gaining that major power boost. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much all that happened in the chapter. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.